Hello, this is the Milestone 2 assignment for Group 2 and our proposal for Human Rights International and their goal to grow their presence in the MENA region. I want to begin by talking about the justification for our qualitative versus quantitative research approaches. The first focus group will allow Human Rights International to gain a basic understanding of a small youth sample's views of human rights and what will spur their involvement and how to best engage youth mobilization in the region. Now, Human Rights International will be able to apply these findings to their growth strategy, which is really one of their foremost priorities, and we're making it easier for them to accomplish. The online questionnaire and random digit dialing will allow for a sample of the entire MENA region, as well as a chance to gain additional demographics and explore youth interests in a more generalized fashion. The focus group structure is very interesting. We will have gender-divided groups using semi-structured interview techniques. It is imperative for the interviewer to build trust with the group of respondents, but not provide leading information. It'll also be important for interviewers to remain neutral and not provide their own opinion, comments, or expressions to answers. We want this to be as accurate as possible, and by employing those tactics, we would eschew non-biased responses. So we're working hard to, it would behoove them to work hard to prevent interjecting their own opinions or biases. Trained and professional interviewers need to be native speakers of the Arabic language. That might help ease the tension for many who would have been unwilling to participate otherwise. And as far as gender balance goes, the male interviewers will lead the male focus groups and females to lead female focus groups. We thought this was key and might help make respondents more comfortable and willing to participate. In the next slide, the first interviewer will need to gain entry with the group by dressing professionally and culturally appropriate for the country, and most importantly, acting in a professional manner. Next, the interviewer will provide an introduction to the group and explain the survey. Human Rights International seeks opinions on human rights. And the interview is to follow only a developed questionnaire, tone, an informal tone, and conversational. When asking questions, the interviewer will follow, as I said, a developed questionnaire, but keep tone informal and conversational. Those are keys to our focus group structure. Some more on our focus group structure. Questions will be open-ended and allow for clarification when appropriate. The questions must not be leading or biased or for or against particular human rights or any human rights issue. Questions will be tested for cultural and social sensitivities to ensure that they remain in line with Human Rights International's values. That's really key because Human Rights International wants a client that is going to uphold and adhere to their values. Next, the questions must not be leading or biased for or against any human rights, as we mentioned. We want to explore ideas of what human rights means to individuals, and that'll begin first as a warm-up, and then explore what makes the youth get involved and mobilizes them in the region. And then we'll have time for interactive questions around Human Rights International's website, and this will be done at the end of the survey. Interviewers will use techniques to gain adequate answers, like probing, asking for clarification of answers, and most importantly, repetition. The survey should be clear, concise, and translated correctly in Arabic, the latter being the most important, of course, so that interviewers feel comfortable and willing to participate in the survey. The questionnaire is to be no more than 10 minutes at length. Any longer, and we felt as though citizens, respondents would feel pressured and not want to participate. And the questions will be tested to ensure cultural sensitivity and appropriate translation. A little bit more on our online survey / research random digit dialing questionnaire structure. The questions are to be structured, and all but one question will be close-ended. Open-ended questions allow for us to explore topics or opinions that may not be covered during the structured questions. You can add open-ended question at the end of the survey. It would be optional, and additional data analysis costs will need to be applied. The majority of the questions will follow the Likert response scale. Now, the Likert response scale, for those unfamiliar, tends to be the most common in surveys and the most recognizable with respondents. Usually, when the Likert scale is used, respondents are given 5 choices. The most common of those choices are strongly disagree, disagree, neither agree nor disagree, agree, and strongly agree. So that's the most common structure used by the Likert response scale. A few questions will be asked regarding demographics. Those, of course, will be dichotomous questions, and a few more questions will use the Gutman scale. The Gutman scale is a one-dimension continuum for a concept you wish to measure, and usually respondents are given binary yes or no answers about something they may or may not like. And you want to try to engage them and to get them to follow up with another response. It isn't as prevalent or as well known as the Likert response scale, but it can be extremely effective, and as such we have included it in our questionnaire structure. And the questionnaire is to start with respondent age in both approaches, followed by a lead-in and warm-up. I want to go back for a second to the dichotomous questions. We felt as though those were necessary to gain demographic information from respondents, which really is key. Moving on, additional information for RDD, demographic questions, except for age, of course, will be asked at the end of the survey. Interviewers will follow the questionnaire exactly as written, and during the introduction give an approximate survey length, which, as we said, will be 10 minutes, no longer. And the interviewers will be native younger Arab speakers who are friendly and able to develop a rapport and a trustworthy tone. Being that we're trying to figure out how, providing Human Rights International with a strategy for figuring out how to get the youth more engaged, we thought it was necessary to have young Arab speakers as the interviewers. And that way, as we said, you'd be able to build a rapport and have a trustworthy tone. Moving on to the conceptual framework. The research goals, of course, are to study the ways in which Human Rights International can increase its presence and Arab voice in the region. The growth strategy targets 16 to 25-year-olds in the region through e-communications and new technology. Research objectives to explore what makes human rights issues relevant and what actions would best mobilize MENA youth. We also want to uncover where in the region MENA youth are most concerned about human rights and how to best communicate with the youth to grow the human rights movement in the MENA region. We see a few research obstacles that need to be addressed, and we have solutions here for solving those issues so that Human Rights International is able to conduct their research and carry out their goals. The first will be tolerance and ethical considerations. To overcome this obstacle, we're having native speakers ask the questions in native tones and accents. That's key. Gender separation, which we mentioned earlier, men asking questions to men, women to women. Younger interviewers will be conducting the random digit dialing. And we want to adhere to the ethical guidelines of both the regional standards, and Human Rights International. Upholding the highest ethical standards is paramount for Human Rights International. The second, of course, is security and stability. Respondents might be unwilling to share their opinions out of fear of being punished, something that could happen due to the oppressive nature of many of the countries in the region, particularly Iran and Syria. To remedy this, during the implementation stage, we recommend developing trust with respondents and ensuring them that their responses will not be shared, keeping this information confidential so that they are willing to participate. And the final issue or obstacle is low internet penetration. We'll remedy this issue in two ways. First, the inclusion of random digit dialing in our qualitative study. The online survey will be sent out regionally, whereas random digit dialing will be conducted in countries with the lowest internet penetration. So that way we'll get surveys from those in the countries that have low penetration, and we'll also be able to obtain the opinions and views of those in larger countries such as Iran and Israel through the use of random digit dialing. And now here is our conceptual framework. You can see that HRI growth in the region is in the middle, and all of the arrows connect the key concepts together, and all of them lead back to human rights growth in the region. The one I want to focus your attention on is here under obstacles. You have internet penetration, and unlike security and stability, it doesn't have its own boxes, because the way to overcome this issue of low internet penetration is through random digit dialing, which you can see under quantitative, as well as the online survey, which is also under quantitative. Hence the arrows from quantitative to online survey down to internet penetration, and then the arrow from random digit dialing to internet penetration up to quantitative. This is our conceptual framework, and you can see that all of the arrows are combined and lead back to the human rights growth in the MENA region. That is our presentation. Thank you, and good luck.